Hi, my name is Michael Bazushko. I'm an information literacy librarian here at Kent Library, and today I'm going to give you some quick tips on searching for academic journal articles in databases. So first, what's an academic journal? An academic journal looks like this. It's basically just a magazine written by experts about one subject. So this is today's farmer. So if you're studying agriculture, you might read articles from this journal. And the articles, they look like this. Like I said, it's just a magazine, but all of the articles are written by experts in that field. So this is how journals come, but most of you will be looking at journals online through databases. So a database, think about it as like a streaming service like Netflix or Hulu, but all they do is they package together journals like this. And not all databases focus on the same kind of journal. So maybe if Hulu has more TV shows, Netflix has more movies, there are different databases for different subjects. So I'll go ahead and show you where to find these databases. Here on Kent Library's website, you'll see articles and databases. And if I click this button, it'll take us to the databases tab. Now, Kent Library, we subscribe to a lot of databases for you to use, but like I said, they don't all focus on the same kinds of journals. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into one of these databases and show you how you can use it to find articles you're looking for. So the first thing you see when you open a database is a search box like this. And let's say, as an example, I'm interested in tornadoes. I can do a search for tornadoes. I find articles. I can click on one. I can look at the information, I can read the abstract to see if it's something I'm interested in, and if it is, I can go up here to access my article. So pretty simple. But you might have noticed that there's a few boxes when doing a search. So it's not quite like a Google search. There's some differences there. And I'm going to get into some of the tricky things about these boxes and the ways that you can better find articles that work for what you're doing. All right, so I'm in my database and I'm interested in this question. How does climate change affect tornadoes? Now in Google, you might just type, how does climate change affect tornadoes? But that doesn't really work in a database, and I'll tell you why. It doesn't really know which words are important here and which words are not important. So it'll say, you're interested in climate change. I'll find articles that say climate change. I say, okay, that's pretty good. And I'm going to find articles that say tornadoes. I say, perfect, that works well. It says, I see you've put in the word how. I'll find all the articles with the word how in it. So you can see that that doesn't really help us, right? So we have to be very specific when we do a database search. So I'm just going to take the terms that are most important to my search and leave out any other words. So I might make it look like this. I'll say tornadoes. And I'll put climate change in this box. And let's also say extreme weather down here. Because what if they don't use the term climate change? Maybe they say extreme weather instead, but I still want those articles. Well, now it'll find all the articles that say tornadoes and climate change and extreme weather. But what if they don't say both of these? What if they only say climate change? Well, I still want those articles. So I'm going to change this box to an or. So now it's fine. They can say climate change or extreme weather. And I'll find the articles that I want. Well, the problem is that I might find an article that says how computer graphics have changed how tornadoes look in movies. And you see how that happened. It said, well, you said tornadoes and we found the word change. I said, but I didn't just want the word change. I wanted climate change, right? So how can I make sure that it only finds articles that say tornadoes and climate change, both of those words? Well, we could add quotation marks right here. And what this does is if you put in 2 words or more than 2 words, it'll make sure that it's now a phrase. So it'll only find articles that say these words in this order when they're found together in the article. So now it'll find tornadoes and climate change or extreme weather. And because I've used 2 words here, I've also made it a phrase. So it won't just find the word extreme. So that's one example. So let's do another search using what we know now. Let's say we're interested in this question. How does social media affect teens' mental health? All right. So maybe I would search for this. Social media, we put in our quotation marks, so it's a phrase. It's not just going to find the word media. It'll find teens and it'll find mental health. So that seems like a pretty good search. So if we search for this, well, we might still get an article on how to market mental health products on social media to teens, which isn't really what we're looking for, is it? But it did find mental health, social media, and teens. So we can see how it got this article, but how can we make sure that we're only getting articles about the exact subject of psychology that we're wanting here? Well, that's where these other boxes come into play. So I'll show you where you might get some information that you can use with those boxes. So let's say we find an article that looks pretty interesting, looks like what we're looking for, and we can go down here to subject terms, and these are specific terms for this database. And these get added as soon as the journal article goes into the database. The people working at the database decide what the article's about, and they put these subject terms onto it, even if these subject terms don't show up in the article itself. So let's say we find a few articles that are similar to what we're looking for, and we check their subject terms, and we start spotting some that come up over and over again, or just seem like the kinds of things we would be interested in with this question. So I might make a list of these subject terms, and if we go back to our search, we can actually change this. So instead of just text, this text showing up somewhere in the article, we can change these boxes to subject terms. And now it'll only show up if it has these subject terms attributed to that article. Now we can get very specific with these subject terms. So you can see I got one result with those subject terms because this is very specific, but hopefully this is the exact sort of thing we're looking for. And we can see it's very, very similar. So I've narrowed down our focus a whole lot by using those subject terms. They can be very powerful once you kind of create a database, a list of the ones that are working for the question you're trying to answer. All right, I'll show you one more trick that you might be able to use when you're doing searches. So say you're interested in social media and teens and psychology, or psychiatry, or psychiatric. There's a lot of words that start with psych, and sometimes it's okay. You might be okay with any of those, and you can keep adding these boxes forever and ever. But an easier way is to put this little asterisk after the beginning of the word. And what this does is it'll say, as long as you find a word that starts with these letters, or a phrase that starts with those letters, add that article to the list. So this can become very useful when you're looking for words that start with educate, or teen, or communicate. Now you don't have to type in all of these words separately. You can just do one search and it'll find all of the articles that have variations of this word within them. So those are just a few quick tips for searching in databases. Just as a refresher, you can find that tab right here in Articles and Databases on the Ken Library website. We've organized them by subject, so you can always start with one of those databases, but click around, search a couple databases. If you're not finding something that immediately clicks for you, you might just be in the wrong database. When doing your searches, remember, you can always add phrases by putting quotation marks around a couple of words to make sure that it gets all of those words in that order. Don't forget you can change these operators here into and or, whichever works for you, whatever you think is going to give you the most specific results. Don't forget about the asterisk if you're using a word that has lots of different variations. And don't forget about these boxes here. It doesn't just have to be text within the article itself. You can definitely look for these subject terms and get really narrow in how you find your articles. And lastly, if you're looking for something and you're not finding exactly what you're looking for, just try changing different words. Try thinking of different variations. So instead of mental health, try psychiatric well-being. Just think of different ways or different words that people might use. And once you start finding a few articles, look at those articles and see what the authors are using, what words keep popping up. And then you might be able to get a database of words or phrases that will help you find the articles you're looking for. So don't be afraid to change up your search terms as you go. Lastly, there is an Ask Us button on the library website. If you're still having trouble, if you can't find something, maybe you're not even sure what database to start with, go ahead and get in touch with us. There's usually a librarian at the front desk. There's a chat window. You can email us, you can call us, whatever works for you, whether you're in person or an online student. Get in touch with a librarian if you're really struggling, and we'll help you from there.